Hello, and welcome to the Small Print Podcast with your host. I'm Elise, and I blog at roulettereader.wordpress.com.
And I'm Dawn, and I blog at bangBangBookblog.com.
Podcast of Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. First, we are going to do a spoiler-free edition, and then we will warn you when we go into a spoiler edition that's going to have a lot more details. So in the spoiler-free edition, we'll try to keep things pretty general, give a general review, and let's get started.
All right, so a quick overview of the book. Picking up where I left off in Queen of Shadows, Aelin, Rowan, Aiden, Lysandra, and Evangeline are making their way to Terrasen for Aelin to take the throne. And, okay, so we'll start off with what we did not like about the book, and then what we did like about the book, and we'll do a rating, and then we'll go into the spoiler edition.
One thing that was an issue for me towards the middle/last quarter of the book was the pacing. Coming off of reading Queen of Shadows, I felt like that book was so perfect. I gave that book a flat 5. She did everything right from character development to pacing, and personally I felt like Empire of Storms kind of missed the mark on pacing a little bit. So much happens.
I would agree.
So much happens. So it was like, she was like shove, 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 all the drama, all the details, all of the history in this book, and I found it difficult to follow at times because I had to go back and try to remember things that happened in book 2 or book 1 or who was this person again? So that kind of threw me off, and it took me a while to read this book.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that it was almost as if we're starting a new world on top of the world that's already vast.
Right.
And we didn't even really get into Terrasen, but all the other little cities on the map and towns on the map now we're just learning about, and so we have to learn much more new characters and their whole backstory, and it was just a lot.
It was a lot.
I feel like that this book kind of got away from her a little bit. It was just a little too much, whereas Queen of Shadows, it was quite simple.
Everything made sense. And it's not that it doesn't make sense in this book, like you understand where she's taking it essentially, but it's like you said, it's like she, halfway through last book or Heir of Fire or something, it was like she just completely went off on this other tangent in her story. And I am interested to see how it wraps up because we have one more book, right?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I could never remember how many are supposed to be in the series. There was another issue that we both had, but for different reasons, and that was that this book gets very sexually explicit.
Yeah.
I found it distracting, not in like a moral sense or anything, but shit goes down in this book. And it's like, wait, you're doing it on a beach now? Hang on. Whoa. Like, we all expected this to happen. She really sets that up in Queen of Shadows, that at some point something's going to happen between Rowan and Aelin. We don't know when, we don't know where or how or why. Well, we know why. But I was like, really, you guys? Because, I don't know, in my mentality, it's just, the world is ending. Yeah. You need to figure out what you're going to do to save things, because it's a cluster. And you're doing it on a beach?
Well, see, my whole, when I read books like this one where I really love the series, I try to come up with a reasoning for why the author did the way they did it. And my reasoning for this, or justification, if you will, is that the world is going to end, we might as well get our freak on. That's what I figure. Everyone's going to die, we might as well just have fun while it's going down. So, in that respect, it didn't bother me with them. But for me, I just felt like it's a little too graphic for a YA novel. With this book, the teens should be growing with the characters. So this book, it's been like, 4 years? Mm-hmm. And so if a teen started at like 12 years old reading the first book, they're now 16, so they're growing with the book. However, you have 12-year-olds who are just discovering the book, and, they can read all 4 books in like 2 weeks or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I understand that the characters are now they're over 18, and so technically they're adults, but I just thought it was just a little bit too graphic.
This definitely is a YA and a adult crossover series for sure. I was like, this is just distracting from the plot. I ended up skipping over those pages, and I didn't really want to do that. I don't like skipping ahead. I never do that, but it was just like, I need to figure out what's going on in this book because I was bothered by some of the other issues in the book. So,
well, I skip over sex and teen books because it makes me feel a little creepy.
Mm-hmm.
If it's an adult book and the characters are teens, like I read Nevernight, and technically that's an adult book, but the main characters are teenagers and it's graphic sex, I don't have a problem with that. But it's not a teen book, so I did skip over a lot of what was happening with that. There was a certain ship that I did not like. Not that I did not like, but I felt it moved too fast.
Oh, for
and
sure.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, that's a spoiler.
Yeah. It was going back to what we were saying before. It got a little confusing, and we can't really go into it because it's a spoiler.
Right.
But like I was trucking along, and the plot is very simple: find the 3 keys to get to the lock to take Erwin and put him back where he needs to be, away from everybody else. Very simple plot.
Sure.
But the way to get there it got really convoluted, like the second half of the book, and even the ending pages, I was kind of left with, like, what just happened?
I was rereading all of that. I had to go back and reread. When they got to the marshes,
yes,
I really had to slow down and pay attention to what was happening, because I'm like, is this a vision? Is this real? What is happening? For some reason, it just flew by, and it just got very confusing. Because, again, we'll go into more detail in the spoiler edition, but yeah, that bothered me.
That was really all
for the bad.
The bad.
Let's go into the good.
Okay.
I really, again, her characterization continues to get better and better with this series, and I found that to be true in this case. My favorite character since Heir of Fire has pretty much been Manon. I don't really connect with Selena personally on a personal level. She's very different from me. I appreciate her character. I love it. It's great. But I have never really connected with her on a personal level, which is weird. But anyway, Manon, however, is that character that I'm like cheering for and rooting for, and she really goes through some serious things in this book, and I found that one of my favorite aspects of this novel.
Yeah. I did also find that I like Manon. I hate to say it, I like her better than Aelin now. And I think it's just because her character, she's a much more dynamic character than Aelin. She's got a lot more going on to her. She's got the struggle with, there's Dorian over here, but then there's she has to be loyal to her clan and her grandmother, and we're not quite sure what her motive is. And that's interesting too.
Yes.
Like, what is her draw to Dorian, and why can't she agree with what her grandmother's trying to do? But they want independence, but it's like the way they're going about it she doesn't agree with. So she's a much more dynamic character than Aelin right now. And
there's a lot of things that are forcing her to really change her MO. Like, in the last book, we kind of saw a different side of her with Elide, with her relationship with Elide, and now it's this new situation with her and Dorian, and you're like, even in her own head, she's like, this is not what I would normally be doing. What is going on? Even I wouldn't call it confusion, but she's embracing a different side of herself that she never really allowed herself to do before, and I love that. I like that. I like that journey that Maas is taking us down with her. Many of the characters were much more fleshed out in this book.
Yeah,
definitely Lysandra. Yeah. Adian, we get a lot more backstory about, which I really appreciated. Lorcan as well, yes. We'll go into more about Lorcan in our spoiler edition, because he has a much bigger role in this book. Anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, I like how she does the separate storylines where we have all this going on with Aelin and her crew, and then we are taking out of their story, and we follow Elide and Lorcan for a while, and we follow Manon for a while. And I know a lot of people don't like to be taken out of the story for long periods of time, but I enjoy that, because you get a little bored after a while, and it's like, okay, now this is refreshing. And so then it's a matter of, at some point they're going to meet, and it's kind of exciting to see, because at one point I'm like, oh, okay, because I'm looking at the map, and I'm like, okay, so they're here, and Aelin and them are here, and at some point they're like, oh, they don't make it, they just missed each other. So it was really exciting to see when and where they were going to meet. So I like the separate storylines.
I do too. The very structure of her story and the depth of her story and characters in the world almost necessitates that multiple storylines, because I don't feel like her story would be as deep or dynamic if she just did one linear plot with you know, with the same people through the entire novel. That was actually one of the complaints I had about Lord of the Rings. I would have preferred that story was structured differently. That's a controversial opinion. Anyway, yeah, she did a lot of things right with this book. Characters are one of those big positives.
Speaking of the Lord of the Wings,
Lord of the Wings,
Lord of the Rings, she, I don't know if this is a Lord of the Rings fan fiction, but I have not read this book, so I don't see the similarities. I do see the similarities in like Game of Thrones and Harry Potter, but Lord of the Rings seems to be more of a stronger presence.
I forgot to mention that in the negative. I don't mind when an author, you know, borrows and kind of changes from major authors or a well-established work. It really doesn't bother me, but there were some portions of this book that were fresh off the page from Lord of the Rings, and I'm not going to say what they are because they're spoilers. I'll wait for the spoiler edition, but it was like, I've read this before. Hang on, no. So that kind of bothered me. It was too similar. It was too obvious. So I don't know if suddenly she's like borrowing from like Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings and some of these other things in a literal level, but I kind of hope it stops, especially in the last book. But we've got some Sauron situations happening here, and I'm like, really? Anyway, we'll go into more about that in the spoiler edition.
Okay. So, let's do our rating now.
Okay. I gave this, I think I said a 4.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I had a 4.25 because I couldn't quite give it a 4.5.
I love her 0.25s. It's like, what? How can you even?
Because
it's so arbitrary.
I know. I know. I couldn't quite give it a 4.5 because the second part of that book was just too confusing.
No, I agree with you. Yep.
And I've probably already forgotten what happened, and I read it like 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, 4.25 for me. It was not better than Queen of Shadows. Queen of Shadows was
so far is
that was great.
Yep.
Yeah. So far, Queen of Shadows is my favorite of the series. But that's all we have for the spoiler-free edition. We will not be podcasting next week because I am on vacation. Hallelujah. So we will be back on October 6th. Not quite sure what we're going to be discussing, but we'll let you know.
Stay tuned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to start the spoiler edition of Empire of Storms in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. First big kind of earth-shattering situation that happens in Empire of Storms is that she is physically not allowed to enter Terrasen. So Queen of Shadows leaves off with they're heading towards Terrasen. She's going to take back her throne and, you know, do her thing. That doesn't happen.
No, and I enjoyed that. I liked it a lot that we met this Daryl character.
Yes.
He was not afraid of her.
Nope.
And I agree with a lot of what he had to say.
Essentially, he told her, you know, you have been an ambassador and an assassin for our enemies, and now all of a sudden you realize that you have this power and you want to suddenly play queen, essentially, is what he says. And she's like, all right. Even Aelin understood that what he was saying was probably... Well, he probably isn't the only one feeling that way.
Mm-hmm.
So for her to go into Terrasen and attempt to take back the throne, she's like, this isn't the right time. I hate that he's saying this to me, but he's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually... Okay, in some of the other books, I've really struggled with Aelin's character. I find her just too rash and too impulsive, and that has bothered me because I'm not personally that way, and she has gotten into so much trouble because of that. And I'm like, girl... So the fact that she listened to him.
Yeah, and I think clearly that's intentional
Sure.
on Maas's part to make her impulsive. That's the reason why Kale, when he saw what she did to those people that killed Nemia, he was like, I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
And everyone is like, she's too impulsive, she needs to calm down, and that's why she's the fire. She just like massacres thousands of people. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming at some point she's going to start growing and stop doing that.
Yes, I was very pleased to start to see some of that dynamism come to her character. But yeah, I was not expecting that, which looking back, I'm like, I should have, I guess. That would have just been too easy. Yeah. But I guess I just expected a different issue. But that kind of starts the story off and changes the whole trajectory of her journey in this book. So basically she has to head back in the other direction and go... in a completely different country, to find the keys.
Yeah,
to find
so
this
now we're
lock.
finding all these dang keys.
Right.
Um,
We do get to see some of Terrasen, which I thought was cool. Like, we go to this tomb and we go to a temple, and so we're starting to get some of that Terrasen culture. But it was cool to see some of the other countries, like Elway, and we didn't hear anything of Elway except that Nahimi was from there, and it's cool to see where she was from.
Yeah.
But yeah. I think the next thing. Oh, go ahead.
I'm trying to look at my notes.
Let's talk about Elide and Larkin.
Okay.
I say Elide. Dawn says
Elide.
whatever you prefer, but just so you know who we're referring to. Elide has escaped from Morath by some miracle, and she has one of the word keys with her. She has got it in her possession. And little Elide is hobbling all over.
Oh, poor
Elide.
Hobble along, Cassidy.
I know. She's hobbling all over Adeline, trying to get out. And Larkin is essentially following her, and she knows that someone is trailing her because she's not an idiot. And he doesn't know, he kind of seems to be unable to act when it comes to her. Like, he's not sure if he's going to kill her, if he needs to take her into his possession, but he does know that she is of some value.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially what happens is that the two of them, she forces him to come out of his, like, hiding, and he saves her, and then we meet some new villains in the process. They were freaky. We can talk about that.
I struggle with new monsters because I don't quite know how to picture them.
Oh, sorry.
Is that what you're talking about? What were you talking
yes, and then I was like, oh, that's another Lord of the Rings reference.
Oh, yeah.
So these new creatures are basically human beings, or like fae or whoever, that this Dark Lord, literally called the Dark Lord.
Dark Lord.
Yep, Dark Lord. I wonder who else was referred to as the Dark Lord. Sauron. Anyway, he's literally taking these people, torturing them to within an inch of their lives so that they turn into something different. Like, he literally is creating a monster out of their pain. I wonder where I've heard of that before. Lord of the Rings. Anyway, I was like, oh god. I was like, oh, I can still see the human eyes through their image. Well, yeah, no kidding. I feel like I'm reading book 2 of Lord of the Rings right now. Anyway, rant over. Not really, because I'll bring it up again later. Anyway, so, long story short, Elide and Larkin start to get it on. And I was so happy about it.
Yeah, I found myself looking forward to their chapters much more than Aylin's chapters. When it was their turn, I was like, yay!
Yeah.
And it was a slow burn.
Yeah.
And I liked that.
It was appropriate.
I enjoyed their courtship.
There was another relationship that got it on pretty quickly as well, but I didn't find theirs as well developed as Elide and Larkin.
Dorian and Manon. Like, I do want them to be together.
Sure.
But
that was
really quick.
But damn.
Compared to all the other relationships that Maas has done.
It was just weird. It was like, he sees her once. Dorian sees Manon once, and she's of course chained up because she's a witch. They don't trust her. And he's like fantasizing about what he's going to do with those chains. Like, again, it does not seem realistic to me. He has gone through intense psychological trauma in very recent months. Mm-hmm. The first thought you're thinking is that? I mean, maybe. I'm not a psychology major. I don't have a background in that. But goodness, it just didn't seem cohesive to me at all.
She saved his life, so maybe he's feeling that.
This is when we need Madeline in here to, like, psychologize the whole thing. But it bothered me. I didn't like it. I didn't find it...
It was too fast.
Too fast. There's a lot of issues with that, but we won't really go into it. So that happens. And again, I wanted that to happen. At the end of the last book, I'm like, oh,
yeah,
yes. But the way that it went down in this book,
really
I found very just kind of anticlimactic. So.
On a side note, did you feel like Dorian was a little bit of a bitch in this book? Like,
kind of a little bit, yeah.
He was a little crappy. Like,
oh, yeah.
He's a king, and he's just, like, sitting there like, well, I'm twiddling my thumbs until someone tells me what to do.
Yes. I found his
character... And I love Dorian. And I was like, oh.
He is extraordinarily different from the person that he was in the first 2 books.
Yeah.
I mean...
After that
I loved Dorian. I loved him.
He had such personality and confidence, and now he is just like...
And it makes sense, though. Like, that does make sense. He was put in a mental trap for... I mean, I don't know how long the duration of the last book was in time.
And his girlfriend was murdered.
Right, Sorsha was murdered. I mean, he's had Nehemia's death on his conscience as well. I mean, the whole thing, he's gone through a lot of trauma. Again, so his personality is very dampened. And I get that, but he was a little... It's like, this is your time to regain your power. This is your time to regain your identity. And I didn't really feel like he was stepping up to the plate quite as much.
Yeah.
He does help them in a lot of ways,
Yeah,
like
he
with
does.
the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know. It was not until the end of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So,
anyway.
Yeah. We've also got Adian, Lysandra, and Gavril. I guess we can just go in order.
Okay. I don't know.
Adian meets his dad.
Yeah.
Gavril. That was kind of a huge reveal. A big scene. Gavril is his father. Gavril is a member of Queen Maeve's... How do you say that word? Cadre?
I don't know.
Cater?
I say words all kind of wrong.
What? Okay, well, what's a
Cadre?
synonym?
I don't know.
Just her group of warriors.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I hate that word. Every time I saw it, I'm, like, frustrated because I don't know how to say it. Anyway.
Oh, my God.
So, Adian essentially doesn't want to have anything to do with his father because... I don't remember the history behind all that. Again, this is something that I wasn't paying attention to.
Yeah, it was a lot of backstory with that one. They in Queen of Shadows, they didn't want Aiden to know because they were afraid that Gavril was going to make him join Maas's clan of Fae. Mm-hmm. But Gavril is not loyal. He's really not. He does not want to be with Maeve. Mm-hmm. So
yeah. So he didn't want that for his son either. Lysandra, of course, is the shapeshifter that used to be one of Aylin's biggest enemies, and now they're really close, which I like. I like that relationship has been a positive thing for her. She and Adian start to have a thing. They don't really quite embrace it as much as the other couples in this book. I'm doing air quotes around couples. Which I liked. Yeah. Somebody needed to keep it in their pants.
Yeah. Well, I think Lysandra was el prostituto, so she was like, I need to take a break from men for a while.
And Adian's very sensitive to that, because every time he would, like, want to touch her shoulder or reach out to, like, brush her hair out of her face, he kind of had to be sensitive to the fact that she's had a lot of trauma in that regard, too. So that was a sweet relationship. It was very sweet. Yeah. And Lysandra saves their butt so many times in this book. Yeah. They would have failed page 200 in this book without her. I liked her. I liked her a lot in this book. She really shows up. Let's talk about Aelin and Rowan again.
I love them in Queen of Shadows. Yes. It was all this tension, powerful. And now it's just like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. That's terrible.
Well, okay. I mean, yes, I see where you're coming from, but there is still a lot of power and force behind the relationship. But I get where you're saying, because we don't see that or get a sense of that again until the very end.
Well, one thing what made me angry, not angry, but it got a little annoying. They were a little gross. I'm like, oh God, you love each other. Okay, you're disgusting now. Like, I don't want to see it anymore. It just got to be a little much. But that's just me.
All like the snarling and the nipping at his ear. It's like,
do you
it's
know
too much
how
for
many
me.
times she said the word snarl
all the time
in this book?
Once you pointed it out to me, I'm like, God, I can't stop noticing now.
It was driving me nuts.
Awful. I'm like,
pick another word, Maas, please.
I know. It's like Star Wars, where the word blast is used in every scene. You're like, okay, this is a drinking game at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, yeah. Obviously, they do get it on in this book, which we really kind of were hoping for in the last book. But they essentially, like, things go down with them. And I'm just going to go right to the end in this mm-hmm. story. Ooh, so Maeve does come over from Doranel, and she is basically wielding all of her power. She's pulling out all the stops, and she foils their plan, and it ends up, like, taking Aelin in this iron box so that she can't use her power when they're transporting her to wherever they're taking her. We don't know. And she sets up this whole battle out in the sea and essentially makes them think that that's where she is. And I don't know how she figured Aelin was on the shore.
Lorcan.
That's right.
And that's why him and Eli...
Oh, God. We might need to go back to that. So, yeah, Lorcan has been basically spying for Maeve, which nobody knew. Nobody knows until the end. And Maeve is basically like, yeah, you may have given me that information, but I don't really need you anymore. And basically is just...
She's spying for... I feel like he was trying to prove his worth to her. Right. She didn't send him out there. He just kind of did it on his own. Mm-hmm.
Because he somehow, in some weird, sick, twisted way, loves her and wants her approval, and she just refuses to give it to him, and she holds it over his head. Yeah. So, like, everything he does, while, yes, he is falling in love with Elise, and, like, their relationship is strong, he he still's got this thing for Maeve. So he sends out this, like, signal telling her where they are, and that's how she finds them. Yeah, I totally forgot. So Maeve takes Aelin, and that's how the book ends. And Manon, somehow she was able to get the word keys to Manon. So Manon has saved the day, because now Maeve doesn't have them, because if Maeve had them, it would be over. And Rowan is pissed. So he goes off to find Aelin with a vengeful death stare. Grip of death. So that's pretty much it. They got married in secret, which I didn't really understand the point of. I thought they were already...
so he could, like, when they go back to Terrasen, whatever.
Oh my god. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that was confusing, but you cleared that up for me. I was lost.
Okay, so in the end, Lysandra, since she is a shapeshifter, Aelin must have known that she was going to get taken. So she said, in case of my kidnapping, if you will, I need you to impersonate me. I need you to shift into my likeness and basically go back to Terrasen, take it, and live as me no matter what happens. So, also, that's not it. She needs to pretend that she's married to Rowan. But when it comes to, like, producing offspring, she's got to get it on with Aedion because he actually looks like Aelin. And so that's how they would justify it. So that's how the book ends. And that did get very convoluted because Aedion's pissed about it, Rowan's pissed about it, Lysandra's trying to explain the whole thing. I was like, huh?
I was lost.
Oh my god. So yeah, I had to read that a couple times. So essentially, Lysandra has to shift permanently into Aelin until Aelin comes back, if she ever does. TBD.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming she will.
Of course, but...
Stories about her.
I know, but you never know. She might pull a Game of Thrones on us. Anyway, so, yeah, a lot goes down in the end, and I guess we'll wrap up by talking... Well, we got two more things, actually. Yeah. Let's talk about Nehemia. Nehemia makes a brief comeback in this book in the form of a flashback, or a memory, if you will. When Aelin finds the lock, she doesn't find a lock, she finds a mirror, and this mirror, I don't know, helps her see the past.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Do we even want to go into that?
No, we don't.
Oh
I was just very angry at Elena for, like, I can't tell you. I can only show you blah, blah. Why don't you tell me what's really going on? I felt the same way. Could you please just tell me so I don't have to go through all these riddles?
And literally Aelin said that, and I loved that she put that in there because I feel like the reader would have gotten really pissed off at this point. Like, come on, we have already been through so much. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff where basically Aelin is responsible for fixing her dead ancestor's mistake, rather. And this mirror is the key. Nehemia was the key. Basically, we find out that Nehemia died not as an accident, but she had to die. She had to die to break Selena and turn her into Aelin. And that was really sad. That was a really sad scene for me. So, we still haven't gotten anywhere closer to really keeping Erwin away from his physical nature. Because it's a Sauron situation, guys, where he is a spirit without a body, and he needs a bod. He needs that physical manifestation, and he can't get it without the three keys, so he's looking for them. And then he's going to rule the world with an iron fist of darkness. Wonder where I heard that before. Oh, also, when they go to find the mirror, they have to walk across something called the Stone Marshes, where there are literally dead people in the water. Wonder where I've heard that before.
Oh my god.
I was literally expecting, like, flames to come up from the water, too, where it's like, the dead are still alive. I'm like, this is too Lord of the Rings.
This book is... reminded me of Crooked Kingdom, by the way. It's a lot of similarities with that stuff. Anyway, lastly, Manon. I kind of knew that her second was going to be sacrificed. It still was a shock.
I did not.
But as her neck was on the line, I was sobbing.
Oh my god, me too.
I did not know what was going to happen.
Ooh.
And for her to, like, say psych and, like, attack her grandmother.
I thought she was going to kill her.
Who? Her
Asterin.
grandmother?
No, I thought she was going to kill Asterin.
That was
because
so rough.
Manon, even though for 2 books, she's been seeing through this situation that her grandma is putting her up against and has not liked it. But I thought she was going to swing the sword and cut that woman's head off just because, I don't know. I thought it was going to be the gotta kill you for the greater good type situation.
Mm-hmm.
Woo. But nope. Yeah. She turns on her grandma.
Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yep. Her grandma essentially reveals also that Manon is only half Blackbeak, and she is in fact the last Crochan queen, which is a big significance. Which is also sad because she's been hunting Crojans her entire life. So she's been like killing off her family slowly.
Yeah, her grandmother is horrible.
Dark.
I would like to have a separate book of the grandmother.
Oh, for sure.
I really like the dark characters. Like her and Maeve are quite interesting women.
I liked that we got more of Maeve in this book.
Yeah.
I hate her, but like in the good, like she's a villain kind of way.
She's a good villain.
Yeah.
Love to hate.
Oof.
So is the grandmother.
Yeah, Maas writes some great villains. Even Erwin. We don't really know much of his personality, but I don't think that's what it's about with him. Mm-hmm. Like, he's already got such a show of force with these Ilkin and all the things, and yeah, she writes a great villain. All of her characters are great, to be honest. I just, I love Manon. Love her.
Yeah, she's my favorite.
Any final thoughts?
No.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next book, of course, with bated breath.
Hopefully I can remember some stuff.
I'm just going to listen to this podcast again.
But we didn't really get into we need like a detailed recap because I've already forgotten.
Yeah, we had to go to recaptains.com and then they didn't have anything, did they?
No.
So we had to Google and find some other site, which
was it Recaptains or
Recaptains did not have it.
Somebody didn't have Six of Crows.
Recaptains have been kind of failing a little bit lately.
Oh, that's terrible.
I'm sorry. Well, they didn't have anything that we needed for Six of Crows, and then they didn't have anything for Throne of Glass series.
Or A Court of Thorns and Roses.
Or Court of Thorns and Roses, but this other website did, which I'm so sorry I cannot remember.
I know.
It was like bookrecaps.com or something, but just Google it and it'll,
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for our Empire Storms. Let us know what you felt about it, and we will catch you next time. Have a great day.